Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your host, the viceroy of verisimilitude, the master of fun and wonder, the existential Mr. Rogers, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. That's me. And welcome to this, the 278th episode of Robservations, the show about something. And you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community, I welcome you. And as always, this show is brought to you by Lucky Tiger Men's grooming products for those men who want to look good and feel great. And if you go to their website at getluckytiger.com and you punch in PGS when you check out and buy any of their fantastic products, you get 20% off your order. And that said, I have some exciting news for you imagination connoisseurs. Now let me find this exciting news. As you know, up until now, it's gone to Christmas. We're giving away once a week a bottle of Lucky Tiger all over body wash. They call it their head to tail body wash that I'm a huge fan of. And we're going to give it away. It was going to be up to the 300th episode of the show. It's going to go through Christmas now. We're going to make it go through all the Christmas season because why not? And we have our first winner. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Our first winner is Jamie Cruz from the great state of Tennessee. Jamie Cruz, you won our first bottle of Lucky Tiger Men's grooming products. I believe you will be contacted for your address, and we will get that out to you right away. Pretty exciting. I've never given away a bottle of Lucky Tiger all over body wash. I have never given a body wash bottle to anybody. So I'm pretty excited about that. So there you go. I hope you use it well and report back and tell us if you like that head to tail body wash, and tell us if your significant other, your parent, a sibling, whatever, what they think of it. How does it smell on you? How does it smell away from you, on you? However, we want to know. Give us a product review. We're not Yelp, but you know what I'd like to know? I hope you love the product. I love it. I love Lucky Tiger Men's grooming products. Anyway, before I get into today's topic, there's a couple of things to discuss. Sometimes you talk about things on a show and you just never quite know where that's going to go. Sometimes it might be something small. Well, there's been a topic that it not only did I discuss it on Friday on the John Campea show, I discussed it yesterday, and kind of blew up on a number of different levels. First of all, I want to publicly apologize to my moderator, Terry, who I like to call the Sheriff of Nottingham. Terry Flynn, he's a great man, and he's also a PhD, and he knows a lot about economics. And there was something that we've been talking about, which is the profitability of comic book movies. Like, what is the most profitable comic book movie ever made? And the two examples that have been used were Avengers Endgame and Joker. Now, on the John Campea show, he pointed out that, yes, it's no contest. It's Avengers Endgame with the amount of money that it made. Now, I countered with the idea that, okay, sure, if you look at it on paper, Avengers Endgame easily made more money than Joker did. But I also pointed out, having worked in the film business for quite some time, and also having tried to raise money and been successful to make movies, you're always talking about how much is a movie going to make to potential investors. Well, as many people have told me over the last couple of days, there's a difference between profit and what's called a return on investment. Now, I, in my thinking, was conflating these two things because I am not an economist, nor do I know anything really about economic theory. Is it like John Kenneth Galbraith? You know, he's somebody I would go to talk economics with, or somebody like that. I am not an economist. I am a filmmaker, and I know how I've had to talk about films and money in the past. But Terry felt that he might have been personally attacked by things that I said, and I want to profusely apologize to him and say, no, that was certainly not my intention. But Terry wrote something that I figure I won't read it all, but there's some things that are worth sharing. And he said that the first section, usually, of Microeconomics 101, within the first pages, you learn that profit equals total revenue earnings minus total costs. And then he goes on to say, actually, you should technically also subtract a second term, but this is hard to measure and usually ignored. Thus, Endgame, assuming costs of around $700 million, made a cool $2 billion in profit, whilst Joker made so far around $900 million in profit. No contest. By definition, in economics and accounting, Endgame was more profitable. And I absolutely. But the question arose, the question was, which comic book movie was actually more profitable? So you're pitting two films against one another and asking the question. Now, the first thing that I did was I said, well, Avengers Endgame and Joker are not on equal footing. So to ask which one, the obvious answer would be, yes, of course, Avengers Endgame made more money. But if I was having to go into a room full of people that I was trying to get them to give me money to make an indie film, and I've had to do this many times in my life, you always have to compare and contrast other films that are, in my case, when you're looking for independent money, around the same budget level. Because as far as movie making is concerned, yes, your profitability is exactly what micro economics 101 would say. Profit equals the total revenue minus the total costs. I mean, that's absolutely what you're trying to tell people. That's what your profitability is. But when you're comparing and contrasting two different movies that were made for very different sums of money, to me, what I would always go back to is the return on investment. I wouldn't have called it that. I was just thinking, well, if you're going to compare and contrast the profitability of two totally different things because they're based on comic book properties, yes. But as far as movie projects are concerned, they're different in almost every single way. So all you can go back to is the percentage in terms of the profitability of both films. To me, in my mind, that's the only way you can really judge them. I that's the way my brain works. Now, I was not speaking that I had some degree in economics, or was I trying to state overtly that, yes, I know what I'm talking about in terms of this. Yes, according to microeconomic theory or the first pages of your economics book. I've never read an economics book, so I don't know. Sure, that seems absolutely correct to me. Your profit equals the total revenue earnings minus your cost. That's no brainer. But in comparing and contrasting the two movies, I don't think it's necessarily fair, or does it make sense to look at them and just apply that. So you would have to then go to return on investment. But in my mind, I guess I was making a leap, but not actually I wasn't showing my work on the paper. And in my mind, you have to ask yourself, what is the percentage of the money that you spent in terms of your total revenue and what you spent to market the movie? How much did the movie cost? How much did you spend to market it? And what did you make? And to me, that percentage of what you made, you have to compare and contrast that percentage of Endgame and Joker, because the variables, they're two totally different things that you shouldn't be comparing and contrasting, because the only thing that they have that's even remotely similar is, one, their movies, and two, they're based on comic book properties. So that's the question. But since they didn't cost the same, since one is the result of a decade's worth of movies, and the other I guess could be two, but it doesn't seem like they're equal. So the only way you could even compare and contrast them, if you're going to on a competition basis, it's like, when you golf against somebody, if you're a scratch golfer and you're playing with somebody that's not as good as you, they have a handicap, and I was thinking along those lines. So I certainly did not mean to offend anyone. I do think that by a metric, if I was trying to explain to an investor, might come in and I said, look, I made a horror movie and it cost $4 million and it was able to make $20 million. Or there was another horror movie that was made for $4 million and it made $60 million. I would then have to explain the discrepancy in the amount of money that was spent on the movie and why did one make more than the other. because they both were made for $4 million. But in the case of Endgame cost $350 million and they spent 200 plus million to market it, whereas Joker cost about 65 million and they spent 50 million. So kind of a different thing. You have to take that into consideration when you're compare and contrast them, at least in my mind, in the movie business. And I think by that metric, by the return on investment metric, the Joker was more, it had a greater return on investment. And Terry wasn't the only one to bring this up. A lot of people brought this up. But in my mind, I've always thought about movies in terms of return on investment. How much money did they make after all was said and done? Marketing costs, manufacturing, how much did it cost to shoot? Because that's how I've been held accountable. So anyway, I just wanted to apologize to Terry. I did not mean to personally attack him. I hope I didn't mean for that to happen. But, you know, a lot of other people wrote to me as well and talked about profit versus return on investment. And I'm like, well, okay, but it seems to me that because like in the microeconomics book that Terry brings up, the idea of profit comes out up in the first 10 pages of the book. Well, that's the most rudimentary understanding of profit. And in my mind, it's a little bit more complicated than that. And especially when you're comparing and contrasting two movies that are made on vastly different budgets, I think you can't really, if you're talking about which film is more compatible or which film is more profitable, you have to be talking about return on investment. Otherwise, it gets a little murky unless you're going on the most rudimentary level. And yes, okay, $1.8 billion or $2 billion. Yes, that's how much it made. It was more profitable. It made a lot more money. But when you're comparing and contrasting two movies, I don't think that's the only thing that you can take into consideration if the question is what was more profitable. Anyway, what I wanted to delve into, as everyone knows, Ford v. Ferrari came out this weekend. It won the weekend. It was the biggest grossing movie of the weekend. And of course, Charlie's Angels got smoked. But NBC, this is the second article in a week that I got off NBC's Think page, off the NBCnews.com Think page, opinion, analysis, and essays. And I read an article that kind of annoyed me. It pissed me off. And I again, for the same reasons that I was talking about comparing and contrasting two movies, one of the things that has always bothered me is that how films that were made 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago are now being reassessed and judged based on the standards and the societal norms that we have today. And they're not handicapped the way golf is in terms of how you're going to I think a film should be handicapped based on the years it came out, and you see what has happened socially, what has happened in the world that has changed. As Disney put it, cultural insensitivity is what they've been saying on Lady and the Tramp and Dumbo. So if you look at, and that's true if a movie was made today, but it's about an event that occurred 50 years ago. If something's trying to dramatize what happened 50 years ago, a lot has transpired in the world since then, socially, and you can't then tell a story about something that happened in 1966 and earlier and then hold it up to our standards of today, because that's really not fair. You have to give a film the same way a golfer gets a handicap. You need to handicap the era. You know, at least I've always thought so. So anyway, this article, which bothered me, was a Think piece, literally called Think, on the MSNBC page today, and it's written by Sage Young, and it was dropped. It came out. I was on the 15th. Actually, it wasn't today. It was 15th, a couple of days ago. And the title of the article is "The Way Ford v. Ferrari Undermines Its Main Female Character is Frustratingly Predictable." This is a trap that so many movies that revolve around adventure-seeking men with big dreams have fallen into. And I knew when I read that headline, hang on a second. I knew when I read that headline, I was like, okay. I guess then I don't, anyway, I'm just going to read the article. So it's by Sage Young. Ford v. Ferrari is a film about designing, constructing, and racing cars that's set in the mid-1960s. As such, the plot is fueled as much by testosterone as it is by gasoline. It focuses on the partnership of the real Ken Miles, played by Christian Bale, and Carroll Shelby, played by Matt Damon, who accepted Henry Ford II's challenge to produce a racing car that could outperform his Italian rivals over at Ferrari. Clearly, Ford v. Ferrari is about men, and that's fine. But even films about men, of which there are many, can include fully formed women. Unfortunately, the way Ford v. Ferrari chooses to undermine its female characters is indicative of a frustrating trend in male adventure stories. Catriona Balfi's character, Molly Miles, by the way, I love Catriona Balfi, and she's so good in the movie. Molly Miles has the complicated honor of being the token woman in James Mangold's film. Other than Ferrari's English translator, who only repeats the words of men, and a few secretaries who serves the purpose of proving that Ford's operation is overstuffed and must be streamlined, Molly stands essentially alone. When audiences first meet her, she's dropping by her husband Ken's garage and purring lines about engines and speed. This is how we know that she's not a spoil sport. Molly supports her husband's passion. She even likes cars, which makes sense because she married a guy who drives cars for a living and repairs them. Molly also loves Ken and their son, Peter. The marriage is depicted as a partnership, which is positive. We see Ken go to the grocery store for the family and sensitively parent his child. Still, Molly as an individual remains an enigma. Stoic and dry in some moments, like when she literally pulls up a chair to Ken's and Carol's immature scuffle in her front yard, Molly acts dangerously impulsive in others. At one point, she puts her foot down and refuses to take on any more hours at work to support their struggling family. This stand might be even more evocative if Ford v. Ferrari ever told us what her job is. For the last third of the movie, Balfi is required to squint nervously at a TV screen, watching Ken drive in the 24 hours of Le Mans, the Le Mans race that constitutes the story's drawn-out climax. This is a trap that so many movies that revolve around thrill-seeking men with big dreams have fallen into. Someone has to represent what they are risking or leaving behind, and that usually falls to a wife or girlfriend character the narrative otherwise doesn't have time for. Recent examples include Claire Foy's Janet Armstrong in First Man, who reminded NASA that they were all, in fact, a bunch of boys, and Liv Tyler's Eve in Ad Astra. Linda Cardinelli's Green Book character Dolores also qualifies, as she's basically there to keep the home fires burning and receive letters from her husband as she drives across the country. Dolores is the foil who reveals the movie's male character's depth, just as Molly's main role is to reinforce her husband's bravery. All three of these examples that the author, that Sage, uses here are examples from over 50 years ago. They're period pieces where things were a little different. Gender roles were more defined, certainly in the American landscape, than they are today. And the stories weren't about the women. The stories were about the male protagonists. And I thought all three of her examples, both Green Book, First Man, and Ad Astra, do a fine job of including female characters and showing them as being strong, capable women who there's a reason why the male protagonists of the story choose to be with those women. Those women are portrayed, I thought, wonderfully well. And while they might be different from how a young female writer, such as the writer of this piece, wants to be perceived in her own life, it's not really recognized in this piece that these are historical films. They're based on historical events that are over half a century old. Go back even further. Go back 100 years. Go back 200 years. Go back 300 years. We had definitely more distinct gender roles than there are today. Society had a much different view of relationships than we have today. The rights of lots of people are better off now than they certainly were hundreds of years ago. And the thing that kills me the most is that this weekend we had a movie that was written and directed by a woman that stars 3 women in very strong roles, Charlie's Angels, and it tanked. And it just got me wondering about this. I'm like, what is the purpose of this article? A movie like Booksmart that came out about 2 female protagonists directed by a woman. One of the most wonderful movies of the year. It didn't do well. So I'm wondering, what is the purpose of writing an article like this? When you're dealing with a movie called Ford v. Ferrari, which in its very title, you know that it's about cars and dudes that drove cars. It's not about Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney, which you should all know her name and know what she did. So should Sage. Look it up. But if you don't know these things, and if you are writing articles like this, it really bothers me, especially when you have a movie that does I thought a wonderful job of being evocative of the period in which it was made. It did a great job of developing these 2 characters. After all, when you're making a movie, you have to concentrate on certain elements of the story. There was somebody that pointed out that the Josh Lucas character was really done dirty by this film, that the man in real life was very, very much underappreciated as far as this movie was concerned and its screenplay. And it just got me wondering, and it just got me thinking about the way that we today, the way that we perceive things, we've really sort of lost this understanding and the nuance. We don't take things into consideration holistically anymore. These are snap judgments, and it's really interesting. This article goes on to say all of these actresses are capable and worthy of more than just hand-wringing and tearful phone calls. The softball lobbed at Balfe in Ford versus Ferrari is especially insulting when you compare Molly's arc to that of Claire Randall, the time-traveling healer she's played on Outlander for 5 seasons and counting. Well, when I read something like this, it's like, how are those even comparable? One character is front and center of their TV show, and the next is playing a supporting role in a movie. Why are we even having this conversation? Why is this article even making these distinctions? You know, that's like saying, hey, such and such an actor became an Academy Award-winning A-lister at one point, but hey, you know, back when they were beginning in their career and before they had a name in movies, they were playing supporting roles, as if there's something wrong with that. She wasn't who the movie was about. That's the case is a little bit different on Outlander. Ford v. Ferrari, she goes on to say, is an acting showcase for Bale and Damon, who are admittedly magic together. But while Balfe does give her best with the material she's given, anyone who's seen a single episode of her Stars series will walk away disappointed that she wasn't trusted with more. Really? Does anybody who goes to see Ford v. Ferrari, are they worried about Ken Miles, the character of Ken Miles' wife, and that the actress playing her isn't given enough to do in a movie called Ford v. Ferrari? Really? I don't think so. And this sort of, I don't understand this kind of, you're trying to build outrage. Are we supposed to be angry because of this? I don't understand I mean, I get where you're coming from. Behind every great man, there's a great woman. But in the case of this movie, it wasn't the car, like we had the Astronauts Wives Club TV series. And of course, in The Right Stuff, there's a lot about the wives of the Mercury astronauts, and they're all beautifully portrayed. And what they went through is done, I think, done very, very well. But in the case of this particular movie, Ford v. Ferrari, that is wildly entertaining. I think for anybody who goes to see it, the fact that there was so much screen time given to Ken Miles' family life is pretty great. And I thought it was, I guess that's because, you know, I'm a middle-aged white cis male. So what do I know? But I just think that this kind of criticism for a movie like this is really unfounded. It's unfounded when we have more females directing films in Hollywood than ever before. We're getting more female visions on our screens than ever before, and they are not being supported at the box office. You know, we get movies like Booksmart. We get movies like Charlie's Angels, which is a franchise property directed and written by a woman that stars 3 strong actresses, and no one supports those movies. Where are those think piece articles? Why go after a movie like Ford v. Ferrari that does a really great job of telling its story and then not write a think piece about the failure of female audience members to turn out to support women made films. And I think that's what's really important here. We have more women, we have more people of color, we have more stories being told from around the world than ever before. And what we want is we want to shed light on those movies and get audiences to go see those films. That's what's important. Like I always say, every person you meet has a story to tell you have yet to hear. But what we shouldn't be doing is going after the people that are telling great stories. And the people that are telling the great stories that aren't getting the audiences, we need to make sure that those people are heard. Because now more female voices are being heard than ever before. And if people aren't going to see those movies, how many more women are going to get to direct? How many more women are going to bring their voices to the screen? And I want to hear those voices. That's what I'm interested in. And when I read something like this that attacks a world-class filmmaker's movie for that's about the competition of Ford and Ferrari at the 1966 Le Mans race, to go after this film because the representation of one of the characters' wives is not deep enough because the actress is great on Outlander. I mean, you're going after, I think, it's the wrong. Now, actually, perhaps not. I shouldn't say that it's wrong, but I'm saying that I would rather see people writing think pieces about the lack of audience interest in the new filmmaker voices that we're getting, whether they're female voices, whether they're people of color, all marginalized people that are now getting a foothold in Hollywood. I want to see people going to see those movies because I want more films directed by women. I want more films directed by people of color. I want to see more diverse stories I haven't heard yet in our cinemas. And it's just when you're going after a movie like Ford v. Ferrari, it is not deserving of your ire. Now, I'm not saying that you're wrong for pointing it out. It's never wrong to always make the point that, okay, perhaps we need to spend more time. We always have to be mindful that these stories could probably do a better job of showing the relationships between the protagonists and their spouses who meant so much to their success. Agreed. But in the case of this film, one of the things that I really enjoyed about this movie was her relationship with her husband. I like the Miles dynamic. I thought they spent a long time on that dynamic, certainly more than a movie like this might have. I thought it was really done well. So to read this article surprised me. And anyway, it struck me. I read it today. I read this morning, and I just said, geez, I think there's other fish to fry, and Ford v. Ferrari is not the film that you should put on the frying pan and turn the heat up on it, because I don't think it was deserving of that. But that's just me. I could be wrong. What do you guys think? Am I off base here? Maybe I am. You just never know. Speaking of films and their portrayal of women, or television shows and their portrayal of women, Ian Samuels is here. Ian Samuels writes in from the UK. Ian Samuels, one of the most I've read, I think, more letters by Ian than any other person, but I like his letters. So here's another one. Rob, for Brits and royalists, it is an exciting time. After many delays, the third season of The Crown finally dropped onto Netflix. After 2 seasons of excellent performances from Claire Foy and Matt Smith as Her Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth and His Royal Highness Prince Philip, and a supporting cast including Vanessa Kirby as Princess Margaret and as her husband Anthony Armstrong Jones, played by Matthew Goode, it is all changed for seasons 3 and 4. Olivia Colman is an excellent actress, and she replaces Foy as the Queen, and in place of Smith, we have Tobias Menzies. Coleman does her best, but still fails to give the presence of Foy, and you find it difficult to believe that they're playing the same character. As for Menzies, well, he sounds like he's giving a poor impersonation of Prince Charles, which, if he was actually playing Charles, might just be forgivable, but unfortunately, he's playing Philip. Helena Bonham Carter is a national treasure and does well, but again, does not feel like the same character as played by Vanessa Kirby. Even though tear-jerking, all-too-real events such as the disaster at Aberfan in South Wales, where after heavy rains, a coal avalanche buried a school full of young children. There are also important events over the period overlooked, including the World Cup held in England in 1966. I don't know who had the idea that a full cast change was to happen every 2 seasons, but it was not a good one. Verisimilitude built into the series over 2 seasons is thrown out. Difficult to get over these issues, but the stories that are told are well told. Many series have suffered cast changes, not only 1 or 2 at a time, but nothing like these. If you can get over these issues, stick with it. Ian Samuels. Yeah, I don't know much about. I've watched a little bit of the Crown. I've watched like the first 4 episodes. I thought it was a great show, but I haven't gotten back into it. And maybe I should. It's one of those things that and Downton Abbey I got to go catch up with. This is an interesting one. This comes from Darren Seeley. And Darren Seeley says, well, hello there, Rob. My reputation, if I have one, does not precede me. Precede you. I don't have every movie I've seen on physical media. If it's a film I didn't like or love for whatever reason, it probably won't be in my media library. Of DVDs and Blu-rays, I have around 400 titles, some of them double dipped due to director's cuts, such as 1986's Manhunter or 2003's Daredevil. I have both of those. And some I have used the Vudu app to convert to digital. Those conversions cross over to other services like Movies Anywhere, iTunes, and Google Play. I also don't mind buying films on Google Play, Vudu, or Movies Anywhere. Of the content I have bought online, not including the converted, is around 100. Not every film bought digitally on these platforms carries over to others. For example, some of my favorite films of 2013, the vampire movie Byzantium, starring Gemma Atherton and Saoirse Ronan, I can get on Google Play. I have that on Blu-ray. But it doesn't cross over with Vudu or Movies Anywhere. But I use all services and do not have any specific preference. Okay, I use iTunes less and less. The Vudu conversions are great, as they serve as a backup copy of some of my collection on physical media. I won't watch them much online since I have the media in a cabinet a stone's throw away. But I know they're there. One such conversion was The Dark Knight Rises. As it turns out, my physical media copy of that film was misplaced and lost to the void. I thought about buying it again, but by this time, stores had started to carry the 3-packs of trilogies, and since I already had Batman Begins Deluxe Edition and The Dark Knight on physical media, I felt no need to spend money on what I already have. This also applies to The Dark Knight Rises, which remained on the various movie streaming platforms. Bruh. The 4K disc. Mwah. So there are some advantages to online media, so I'm not opposed to it. And it does have some space as that cabinet. My rack and shelves are full to capacity. I'll probably still get some discs to other films in the future, depending on the film, the extra content, and presentation, like a Steelbook or something like the Lawrence of Arabia DVD storybook cover or the Total Recall Mars case. I still have that. As to some disadvantages, not all of my physical media titles can be converted, and some, such as the Stephen King miniseries Salem's Lot and The Shining, which is superior to Kubrick's overrated take in my opinion, or the 1989 thriller True Believer starring James Woods and Robert Downey Jr., is available anywhere on streaming services to date, as far as I know. Anyway, much is made over the Disney Plus extra content for Avengers Endgame, and I am disappointed. See, I bought the Avengers Endgame through Google Play, which crosses over to Vudu and Movies Anywhere. Movies Anywhere is run by Disney. On Movies Anywhere, the bonus features for Avengers Endgame are pretty much the same on the Blu-ray. I checked. But with the news that Disney Plus had more bonus content regarding different yet unfinished takes on the descriptions I heard, it seemed I wasn't missing much of anything, and the final result worked just fine. Still, I have Endgame on Movies Anywhere and not physical media. Why would I sign up for Disney Plus other than the new series content such as Star Wars or Marvel? I can get Disney-related titles off Google Play and Movies Anywhere, and as the MCU goes, sure, I'm a fan, but I've never been a fan of cross-pollinating media. I don't think I need to play a video game to explain a plot hole or missing character in a film. Remember Alien Covenant, where the crew's backstory was all viral short films? And what was a big criticism of that film again, which I didn't think was as bad as folks made it out to be? I want movies to stand by themselves on their own 2 feet. Every story should be contained. Maybe the diehard under geeks might absorb all possible media and go over every nook to see what's what. There's so much content, but I want to see a movie. I find myself in recent times collecting not physical media, but rather production art books. Got any of these? The Watchmen 2009 production art book is outstanding. Maybe this is the true special features section. Best regards, Darren S. Well, Darren, I thought that was a great letter. And yes, I do collect a lot of those art books. I don't have all the MCU art books, but I've been collecting art books since I got the Art of Star Wars, the hardcover Art of Star Wars from the Science Fiction Book Club back in probably 78 when it came out. I've so many different film art books, and I think you're right. I mean, as far as special features go, I really enjoy them. I enjoy Cinefex magazine as well. And for somebody who produced special features for 15 years, I'm a huge fan of special features. But unfortunately, the money that the studios used to spend on special features has completely gone away, which is unfortunate. Sure, sometimes you'll get some decent special features, but even the Marvel films, if I had worked on the Marvel movies, I would have done what I did for Superman Returns. I would have made 3-hour documentaries. I mean, they would have had to pay for them, but I really would have been, it would have been really fun, as a matter of fact, to have done like what they did with the Lord of the Rings movies, how we had the appendices and kept adding to them. I would love to have documented the 10 years of the Marvel movies. If I spent the last 10 years of my life doing documentaries on all 23 of the Infinity Saga, and when I say that, I mean really delve into every aspect. And you see a lot of that in the art of, kudos to Marvel, almost all, I think all of the MCU movies have the art of books, which are great. I haven't bought all of them, but I've bought a number of them, and they're fantastic. And I totally agree with you. And, you know, Prometheus was a movie I found to be very, very disappointing because I thought that it did not develop its own subject matter enough. But Charlie de Lauzirika's documentary on the making of Prometheus, it's a 4.5-hour documentary, is in my mind, and the documentary has so many branching segments. It's one of the great unsung documentaries that's ever been done for home video. So if you're at all a fan of Prometheus, getting the movie, if only to see Charlie's 4.5-hour documentary and all the other work he compiled, it's amazing. But I want to thank you for this letter. I mean, I think, you know, the idea of what's going on with streaming services and how we're going to approach things. I mean, no one's going to come take your physical media away. I certainly don't want people to come take my physical media away. I mean, over the last couple of days, my girlfriend Elizabeth has watched, I don't know why, I put on Attack of the Clones, and she sat through the whole thing, and now she's watching Revenge of the Sith when I went on. And then I watched my 4K disc of Inception last night, although she was going to sleep and wasn't feeling well, so I turned it off because I had it playing at ear-splitting volumes. Boy, does that disc look good. I really love Inception, and for anybody who's interested, he's asleep the whole time. The whole movie's a dream. Just saying. And people might get angry. But anyway, I do believe the whole movie is a dream. But I want to thank you for that letter. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how things shake out. Whether you own digital copies, whether you own physical copies, as long as I can keep, I feel like I need to buy a high-end player, or just wait for PlayStation 5 to come out. But I don't know how much life I have left on this planet, so I feel like I should slowly start working my way through all my physical media and then maybe giving it all away as I work my way through it. Well, I've watched Hunt for Red October for the last time, but you know what? I don't have the 4K disc for Hunt for Red October, and I really want it. I guess I got to one day bust on that Jack Ryan collection that's available in UK only. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how things shake out. And I'll tell you, the thing about Disney Plus is, and I feel this way having not even had it for a week, Disney Plus is really going to have to start filling it up with original content because you're going to go through it eventually. Eventually, I mean, with Netflix, there's always crazy stuff in their nooks and crannies that I'm constantly coming across. But with Disney Plus, because it's so Disney-based, there's a finite amount of Disney material that I'm interested in seeing. And even delving into, as I talked about the other day, we watched That Darn Cat, which I thoroughly enjoyed. It made me want to go back and look at all of their sort of adult comedies from the 60s. I never thought I'd feel that way, but having it on Disney Plus, there you go. But Disney Plus is really going to have to start making a lot of original content that, by the way, better be better than their Lady and the Tramp live action remake. I wonder, I mean, you had people like Colleen Atwood designing costumes for it. And I wonder if that Lady and the Tramp film began as a theatrical release and then wound up on Disney Plus because it just doesn't really cut the mustard. Sorry to say, not that good. I was very disappointed. Wasn't that good. Anyway, it's just, I don't know how it's going to shake out. I don't know how I'm going to feel about my physical discs. I mean, it was funny. I was going to pack up. I was going to move my physical media from inside the house into the garage, and we have it all. And Elizabeth said, no, keep the movies here, get some more shelves so you can put up your Hot Toys figures, get some Billy bookshelves with glass shelves and glass front doors, and you could do like 4 Billy bookshelves lined up with your Hot Toys figures. I'm like, ooh, I like the way you think for the Imaginarium. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how physical media shapes up in the next 10 years. And I think, look, the real thing about physical media is I hear universally that people are afraid they're going to lose something that they feel they're never going to be able to see again. And I think they're right. I think that ultimately streaming services, especially, the reason that studios even lost interest in their own catalog titles is because less and less people are interested in their catalog titles, and they weren't selling. I mean, I would love to have a 4K physical copy of War of the Worlds. Paramount put it out. You can get it on iTunes, but I don't have a beautiful physical copy of it. Why? It was my first favorite movie when I was 5 years old. I love War of the Worlds. I'd love to have a 4K copy of it on disc. But the reason there's no disc is because how many would sell? Honestly, on the planet Earth, how many people would buy War of the Worlds, a 4K War of the Worlds disc, a movie from 1953 in 4K? By the way, it would look glorious because the colors in that film are incredible. Not many people. But that's the problem. The problem is the thinking as the years go by, all of these older movies are going to have less and less value. But as I talked about, everything has the long tail. And you know what? Because it was on Disney Plus, I watched That Darn Cat. That was a movie I probably never, ever, 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 for any reason at all, would have ever watched. For whatever reason, Elizabeth started watching it. It was there. It was clickable. It was on Disney Plus. There you go. I watched That Darn Cat. And I wouldn't have watched it. How many movies are going to have a second life or a third life or a fourth life because they're available on these streaming services? And the one thing about Disney is there's something about their interface. I don't know how it was designed. It's just very fun. I guess it's because all the films have their own graphically designed pictures and logos, and it's really, what they've done is good. It's very entrancing, but I could see myself burning through it pretty quickly. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see where we are at in the future. But thanks for writing in. I appreciate it. Let's see. A lot of people are firing in stuff to say. Josh Rosowskis is here. First of all, Josh Rosowskis just started his own YouTube channel. He's a member of the Post-Geek Singularity community. He deserves our support. By the way, he just had a birthday, Josh Rosowskis. Happy birthday to you, sir. And Josh has started his own show on YouTube, the Josh Rosowskis Show. He needs viewers. You should tune in to him. He's busting his ass out there, putting out new content. I'm not as much of a wrestling fan as Josh is, but I appreciate that he is. And he's got some really interesting film analysis out there. So Josh Rosowskis, happy birthday. And let's watch your channel grow. So everybody should go subscribe to Josh Rosowskis' channel, or at least watch the Josh Rosowskis Show. Willow Yang is here. Willow Yang says, from Cardinal Sin, hey, Robert, I'm broke, so I can't send you a super chat myself right now. Hope you're well. well, thank you. Thank you, Cardinal Sin. So you hit up Willow? That Willow, whether she's writing Pillow Talk articles or Willow Talk articles, she probably writes Pillow Talk articles for some other magazine, or I don't know, but I'd like to read those too. Well, Willow, I want to thank you for Cardinal Sin for doing that, and it's always good to hear from you. Josh Rosowskis says, 40th birthday and Christmas mid-range suggestions. Wow. Well, 40th birthday. You know what? For my 40th birthday, some friends of mine put on a surprise party for me at Sushi Roku. You know who did that actually? It's Bryan Singer. Bryan Singer did. He put he had a little Bryan Singer and Mary Forrest hooked me up with a little surprise birthday party at Sushi Roku for my 40th, which was unexpected and fun. So for your 40th birthday, wow, 4 decades on this planet. And I know you've had to endure a little bit more hardship than a lot of us. So kudos to making it this far. And what do you do for your 40th birthday? I don't know. First of all, you know what I like? During the holidays, it's always time to revisit, whether it's trilogies, like The Godfather, the 3 Godfather movies, watching them all on one lazy day. Or here's what you should do. Here's what you should do because it's better now than it's ever been. And even though it's a little disappointing, so you've got to watch Um, you've got to watch The Right Stuff. Start with The Right Stuff. Philip Kaufman's The Right Stuff. Then you watch From the Earth to the Moon, which is now out on Blu-ray, even though very disappointing Blu-ray, but you got to get them because they're great. You watch From the Earth to the Moon from episode 1 to episode, I think, 8. And then you watch Apollo 13. And then you watch Apollo 13. No, there's another one. You got to watch up to episode 6. Then you watch First Man. Then you watch 7 and 8 up until Apollo 13. Then you watch Apollo 13. Then you watch the rest of From the Earth to the Moon. And now you can watch For All Mankind and try and do it in a whole day. You got to wake up like 6 a.m. to do it, though. That's what I think you should do for your Christmas mid-range. Do that. But for your 40th birthday, I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that. Luke Beckett says, why does a movie like Endgame cost so much to market? People are waiting to see it. How much advertising do you need? Well, that is a good question. The thing is, though, part of what you want to do is partner up. I'll tell you something interesting. So when I was working on Superman Returns, they had a new division at Warner Brothers called Global Brand Management, where they were trying to team up with various companies, and whether it was product placement in the movie, or they would team up. Superman Returns teamed up with Pepsi, so they had Superman Returns was all over Pepsi cans, and they try and do lots of different kinds of marketing on many different platforms. I watched a video today. The Popcast guys, who are quickly becoming one of my favorite YouTube channels, they did a piece that I suggest everybody watch about the streaming wars. And it begins with talking about the fact that there was an ad for Disney Plus at the DMV, which I thought, one, was pretty brilliant because you're stuck looking at these screens. But I think the reason why they spend more money advertising a movie like Avengers Endgame is because it costs so much money to make. When you make a movie like Avengers Endgame, let's say you're spending $350 million making the movie and another $200 million to market it. You need to make at least 3 or 4 times that before you're ever into profitability, really. So they have to make sure the whole world knows, that everybody knows, every parent, every grandparent, every kid, every person, every single individual on the earth knows that Avengers Endgame is coming out because they need more people to go see it. It's really as simple as that. The more money you spend on marketing, the more people you reach. You can do more diversity in marketing. They could do they were doing a partnership, I think, with Audi. Was it Audi? They had an Endgame Audi, like it was a Tony Stark Audi, because they have the car that he drives to Avengers headquarters in Endgame. So they do all kinds of different marketings to reach as many people as they can. And the more that they spend on various marketings, the more people they reach on a global basis. Remember, they're now no longer marketing just for North America, but for the whole world. And that's why it costs so much to market, because they want that opening box office weekend worldwide has to be huge. And all of their marketing paid off because they created a fervor. I mean, I thought Endgame was a very well-marketed film. JB Bonifacio says, Le Mans has outdated societal depictions. The end. You know what, JB? You're right. It has outdated societal depictions. And that's again, one of the things that really bothered me about that article. I'm like, this movie is set in 1966. It even starts earlier than that. And we had a much more, the roles were defined. You had bits of civil rights, and then you had the women's liberation movement and everything from bra burning. The pill was new, brand new. Lots have changed, but because a lot of us, you haven't seen all this change. When you're born into, especially if you're in college now and you're full of all the ideas that academia is pumping you full of, you have to realize that I understand you want these societal changes now. When do we want them? Now. But human civilization has been changing for thousands of years, and we've come a long way. We've come many, there's so much ground that has been covered, and there's more inclusion and more awareness than there has ever been before. And should we keep going? Of course. But this idea that everyone's talking about this oppression and the visions of women, it's like, man, If you were alive 30 or 40 years ago and you felt the way you do now, you'd be far more frustrated. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot of things that have changed. And I think some of the change is good. Some of the change is sort of insane. But when you're watching a movie that's taking place in 1966, I think it's important to take that into consideration. The point of the movie is not to show the relationship that Ken Miles has with his wife, even though I thought what they did show was pretty great, because it showed that they were, I thought, a great family. He loved her, she loved him. They had a lot of mutual respect. They understood one another. It was shown as being, I thought, a very successful marriage. And I thought that was refreshing. It was good. He wasn't some guy who got immersed in his work without realizing he had a great relationship with his son, and I thought the relationship he had with his wife was a good one. That's why it was so strange for me to read that article. I'm like, wow, I thought they spent enough time. It was something that struck me. I thought the relationship was well portrayed in the film, which is why reading a think piece which talks about how she didn't get her due seemed to me to be, why are you spending your time thinking about that? Why not write a think piece on the failure of Charlie's Angels? One more woman director is now going to have a harder time getting another studio picture off the ground, unfortunately, and I think undeservedly so. But you're only as good as your last project. I'm a huge Elizabeth Banks fan, and I want to see her. I hope she gets another directing gig. I really do. JB Bonifacio also says, also, best week ever for Star Wars fans. Well, Star Wars fans, 2 episodes of The Mandalorian and Jedi Fallen Order, and it's getting a lot of great reviews. I can't wait to play it. It is a great week to be a Star Wars fan. As a matter of fact, we're getting new Star Wars all the way up to December 27th on a weekly basis, including The Rise of Skywalker. And I'm still holding out hope. Hope springs eternal. I hope Rise of Skywalker is great. You know, I ran in before the show, and Elizabeth was at the part in Revenge of the Sith where they try to arrest the Chancellor, and it doesn't go well. I love that part, and I love McDermott's performance. For all the problems with the prequels, Ian McDermott definitely MVP of that series, and watching him go full on dark side is awesome. And I love his unlimited power. You know, when he's great. That's why I say, while the prequel movies are not good movies, there's a lot of great Star Wars within them. And while I could skip around and there's just scenes that I enjoy, even though they're not the greatest movies in the world. Manny Santos is here. Good day, mate. Cheers for the joy and wonder. Manny, well, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for saying so, and thanks for supporting the channel. It does say NZ there, New Zealand, one of my favorite places. You know, I love New Zealand. As many people know, I lived there on and off working on the Lord of the Rings movies. And I also quite enjoyed being there we were in country. Me and my team was in country that was Elizabeth, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, that was Zoe Trope, walking back and forth. Being in New Zealand for 14 months on Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I love New Zealand. I have not been back since 2004. I would love to go back. I love New Zealand. We were in Oamaru for a long time. We were in Christchurch for a long time. Wellington, Auckland. Yeah, I can't say enough about New Zealand. So, Manny, thank you. Or I should say, kia ora, mate. Movie Fanobi is here. What a fabulous T-shirt, Rob. Happy son, Mr. Face Fuzz. Yes, this is another one of these sort of bootleg. You know, I think aside from Last Exit to Nowhere, which is my favorite geeky T-shirt company, there's a lot of T-shirts on other sites when they pop up on Facebook that I buy. And I thought this design was particularly inspired. There's a lot of great geeky T-shirts that are out there, and I love them. Shadow Zach 09 says, by the way, thanks for supporting the channel, Shadow Zach. Shadow Zach 09 says, what do you think of Tom Holland's Uncharted coming out in 2020? Do you think it's coming out too soon, or should it get pushed back another year? I'm worried it's going to flop. Well, Shadow Zach, I love Tom Holland. I love his Spider-Man. I am not a big fan of him playing Nathan Drake. I think he's too young. And that's not to say that he might surprise me. You know, Mark Wahlberg, even though, what is he, in his mid-40s or something, he seems to be more of a Nathan Drake character. I don't know if the timing of Uncharted is going to, again, I don't know. Uncharted the funny thing about the Uncharted game franchise, which I'm a huge fan of, it was the first time I played a video game. When I got the first Uncharted, I was very excited. It was recently. I've been divorced for a little less than 2 years, so I spent a lot of time playing video games, more so than I would when I was married. And Uncharted was one of the games that I finished in one sitting. I bought it, I sat down. I think I played it for like 14 hours straight. And I love the Uncharted franchise. I really, really do. The four Uncharted games. I haven't played that spin-off game, but I'm a huge fan of the Uncharted franchise, and I want to see it succeed. I just think that Tom Holland's a little young. But the question you asked about it coming out in 2020, I don't think it matters when a movie comes out. I really don't. I think if a movie's good, it will succeed. Sure, there are things like Shawshank Redemption that didn't find its audience until later. But look, I think the Uncharted franchise was the first time I ever played a video game, and I thought, wow, this is as close to playing a movie as I've ever got. That's one of the reasons I was so wrapped up in the characters and the performances and the gameplay. It all worked together. I'd love to see the Uncharted franchise succeed. It does. I don't think it really depends when it comes out. It just has to be a good movie. At least that's kind of the way I see it. Kyle McCaskill says, I noticed the film and TV industry in New York doesn't have all of these racial and gender issues. We just picked the best story and the best storytellers. Well, yeah, I mean, look, again, we're going through a period of time where a lot of people that didn't have a voice within the industry now have a voice. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's unfortunate for people like me who have a harder time getting certain jobs. Like if I was going up for a directing job, I'm a middle-aged white dude, I'm going to have a harder time scoring that job, which is something I've resolved myself to. It's just the state of the world. Ultimately, that will shake out because it just will. I mean, things change. We're just in a period of time where we're always in a transitional period. But yeah, I think one of the things in New York is that there's just a lot more different kinds of people working in the industry than there are out here necessarily. I mean, New York is much more of a melting pot. So I don't have any data to back that up, but it seems like that would be the case. So yeah, I would imagine. DJCDO1 says, hey, Rob, did Forbidden Planet have a big impact to Star Trek? Forbidden Planet to Star Trek. Forbidden Planet in 1956 to Star Trek in 1966. It's on Netflix now. Still holds up well. You know what? Elizabeth and I were watching Forbidden Planet just the other night. Yes, it's on Netflix. Forbidden Planet is absolutely the model for Star Trek. It was hugely influential for Gene Roddenberry and hugely influential. I mean, to me, I've always looked at Forbidden Planet as kind of the proto-pilot for Star Trek. It's very similar to Forbidden Planet, and I think rightfully so. I mean, I love Forbidden Planet. I know it's a riff on Shakespeare's The Tempest, but it's certainly one of my favorite science fiction movies of all time, and it does hold up. And what's really interesting about it, like the original Star Trek, I know there's a lot of people who are going to say, oh, the effects are dated, and they are, but within the proscenium of the frame of Forbidden Planet, I think all of the effects really work well. Even the Disney animators who animated the monster from the id monster, I love it all. I think it really works. And even though it's a period piece, it's like the original series of Star Trek. It feels, because of the way it's done and how stylized it is, it feels like it's moved beyond aging and has become a period piece from the future that will it'll sort of always be unto itself. It was made, of course, and it came out in 1956, but because it has this weird electronic score and it uses beautiful background paintings and it has very retro now, but the retro future sets, I mean, I really feel that it's now sort of a timeless classic. I really, really like Forbidden Planet, although it's got some questionable stuff happening there with Alta. But boy, do I like that. I like that movie a lot. But yes, it's absolutely one of the biggest influences on Star Trek that there is. And yeah, go back. It's interesting because go back and watch Forbidden Planet, and then watch where No Man Has Gone Before. Watch the second pilot for Star Trek. Well, heck, even watch The Cage. But I never tell people to watch The Cage first, because it's better to experience The Cage as part of the 2-part episode, The Menagerie. I think it works better, especially with what came after. Anyway, Josh Rosalskis says, thanks, Rob, but I was asking about the 4K TVs. Laugh out loud. 2-parter. Oh, look, man, I'm all about 4K OLED, not QLED, OLED. I'm all about it, and I want to get the biggest one possible, but they're very expensive. But if you can get a 4K and like an LG 4K OLED set, I would suggest getting one. Mark C says, no, seriously, I need Megaforce in 4K. No other movie is the lead actor's beard and blow dryer game more on point. Well, for those of you who don't know, the great genre summer of 1982, which is probably the greatest genre summer of all time, within the space of basically 2 months, you got Conan the Barbarian, Star Trek II, Poltergeist, Tron, E.T., Blade Runner, The Road Warrior, and of course, you got Megaforce, which wasn't so good. Megaforce is a really difficult movie to watch now, but it's pretty hilarious if you go back and you look at it. The good guys always win, even in the 80s. Deeds, not words. Yes, I had a Megaforce one sheet hanging on my wall in my bedroom for way too long. You can get it on Blu-ray in Japan, but yeah, that's Mark. It's a rough one. It is a rough one. Cinefinity and Beyond says, are you seeing Affleck and Gadot on Twitter? No, I have not looked. Oh, man, I think I do follow Gal Gadot on Twitter. I don't know if I follow Ben Affleck. I should. Henry K says, Limetown on Facebook Watch is very intriguing. Well, Henry K, I've heard that. It's based on a podcast that, I saw something about that. I watched one of it looks good, about a whole town that 300 people just disappear. And why, I don't know. Koba says, watched for the first time 1964's First Men in the Moon. Damn, Harryhausen was a genius. Yes, sir. Yes, Koba, he was a genius. And I love First Men in the Moon. It's another mid-60s science fiction movie that I don't talk about enough. But yes, Ray Harryhausen was a genius. And I'm glad that you recognize that, because it's worth remembering he was. I love stop motion animation. I mean, look, the Tauntauns wouldn't be done in Go Motion without Ray Harryhausen, which he wouldn't have been around probably without Willis O'Brien, but you never know. This is an interesting, here's an interesting article, or an interesting query. It's a letter from Craig Stratton. Greetings, Rob, and the Post-Geek Singularity. Today, I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are on the economy of Star Trek. You have said that you regularly watch videos from the Dave Cullen show, and I was wondering if you saw his video, Is Star Trek a Communist Utopia? I did not see that video. I keep passing by it, but I have not watched it yet. I ask this because the idea intrigues me, especially in the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager era of Trek. We are often reminded that there is no wealth or money of any sort. People work for the betterment of humanity. Yeah, you then also have the invention of the matter replicator. It's technology that essentially makes resources like food, water, and other materials once thought of as finite, now infinite, taking away any value they may have. Craig S. Yeah, I've always been interested in the economy of Star Trek. Obviously, the Ferengi talking about all their gold-pressed latinum. They were the Yankee traders of space. But I've always wondered, how does the economy work? I mean, still, yes, of course, they probably replicate all of this material, whether you're building starships or wanting a cheeseburger, but how do you pay for, or how do people get paid? I don't know. I mean, in Mirror Mirror, Kirk says, you want credits, I'll give them to you. So there's got to be some kind, maybe it is a communist utopia. I've not watched that. For anybody who doesn't know, Dave, another YouTube channel I quite enjoy, the Dave Cullen Show. I think he does a good job with his videos. Again, some people have leveled a leveled some accusations at him that I don't agree with. But I like his videos a great deal. He spends a lot of time on them, and they're very interesting. And he's called me out by name a couple of times, and I want to thank him for it. I don't thank him enough. But yeah, the Dave Cullen Show, I will definitely watch that video because I'm a huge fan of Dave's. And I think if you want to watch, he just did something. He did a retrospective. I don't know what made him do this, but he just did a retrospective review of 2010 that I highly recommend watching because he gets it. 2010 is not supposed to stand up right next to Stanley Kubrick's 2001, but it's a great space adventure on its own. And I've always enjoyed 2010. I saw it in the theater when it first came out. It came out in the Christmas season of 1984, along with Dune. So I reviewed both for my high school newspaper, and it was cool to see him write or do a retrospective YouTube review on 2010. So yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to go watch his video. I'm sure it is interesting. Let's see. Now this one, I like this letter. This comes from Jason Webster. Hi, Robert. I hope you and members of the Post-Geek Singularity are happy and well. Kudos to you, Robert, for all that you do within the film industry and popular culture, especially with your great YouTube channel, where you invite us all into your life and home to engage with pop culture fans and inform and entertain over the latest issues in popular culture. Well, thank you for that. Where would the world be without the Burnettwork, Nerdrotic, Overlord DVD, Collative Learning? Is it Collative Learning? Collative Learning? And Midnight's Edge to discuss popular culture, especially regarding film. We all have a list of favorite films from the science fiction genre. My love of science fiction began with such films as Logan's Run in 1976. Oh man, I was there opening night, Friday night, opening night. My mom took me and my sister to see Logan's Run. What it was a seminal moment in my life, the John Dance Theater that no longer exists. Star Wars in 1977 and watching television series such as Space 1999. My favorite science fiction films of all time are Blade Runner and Star Wars. Star Wars got me from the moment John Williams' symphonic opening credits theme blasted out of the speakers and almost sent me deaf as it coincided with the awesome yellow title flashing across and virtually filling the screen. Blade Runner, because of its awesome production design and jaw-dropping visual effects and its central theme of the question of what does it mean to be human. Then there are great performances by Harrison Ford and Rutger Hauer. Hauer's monologue towards the end of the film is beautifully eloquent and profound as it is heartbreaking. I agree with you, the film only has impact if Deckard is human. The job and society rob Deckard of his humanity, and it is ironic that Batty, a replicant, an android, restores humanity within the jaded Deckard. Thank you, sir. Thank you for saying that. Like yourself, Robert, I do love Star Trek the Motion Picture. It is my favorite of the Star Trek franchise, as I feel it is the closest to the original television series in terms of a philosophical approach to timeless subjects such as companionship, identity, self-realization, and destiny. Man, you and I park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. Through V'ger, the crew of the USS Enterprise and the audience explore such hefty subjects. The types of subjects Gene Roddenberry loved tackling. My second favorite is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan for many of the same reasons yourself and other fans have expressed in the past. I love Flash Gordon from 1980, as it is a fitting tribute to the original Alex Raymond comic strip. It looks, feels, and plays out like a living comic with its gorgeous production design and sumptuous color palette and great cinematography by the legendary Gilbert Taylor. Many believe Taylor's work on Flash Gordon is better than his work on Star Wars. The quirkiness of the use of models and effects that look like those that appeared in the serials of the 1930s and 40s in some sequences, while other sequences feature contemporary effects, sets, and costumes. It was a moderate success worldwide due to doing really well in Europe and Australia, but floundering in the US. Many point to the way the film was poorly marketed in the US as being one of the major reasons for its underperformance. However, I am glad it has become well-loved as a cult classic. To some, it is a guilty pleasure, but it's really fun to watch. I love Flash Gordon. My friend Brent Pryor hates it, but I think Flash Gordon is exactly the movie they set out to make. And I love it. And Ornella Muti as Princess Aura is, of course, you can't go wrong. Some people, however, are surprised when I don't mention Alien or its sequel, Aliens, but I do love those films. However, I view Alien as a horror film and Aliens as a war film. I love Predator from 1987, but I categorize it as an action horror film. I have all three in movie collections and watch them often. I am a fan of the Millennium series of Godzilla films, which is why I loved and enjoyed this year's release by legendary Warner Bros. Godzilla King of the Monsters. Whereas Gareth Edwards' Godzilla introduced the legendary monster to new fans, Godzilla King of the Monsters was a love letter to the films of the Toho franchise of the last 3 decades, warts and all, just on a larger scale in terms of production design and better visual effects. So there are my favorite science fiction movies. I loved Godzilla King of the Monsters. You know, one of my I think still my most watched video on the Burnettwork, it's got like 75,000 views, was my review. I got to go see a very early screening of the film. I think it was the first time it was ever shown. It was an influencer screening, and Mike Doherty invited me. I love Godzilla King of the Monsters because I love the Toho movies. And that it was like watching a Toho movie that I hadn't seen before. I loved it. I thought it was great. I understand why a lot of people didn't dig it. I mean, the tone was sort of all over the place, but I loved it for that reason. I look forward to watching great content on future Robservations episodes on the Burnettwork YouTube channel. Sincerely, Jason Webster. Well, Jason, what a lovely letter. Thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing those favorites. You know, it's really interesting to me, the world that we have come to live in. Because growing up, what I have lived through, like, you know, I feel like when you hear Roy Batty's speech, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Got to do the at the end. Because I feel like I've lived through that as far as science fiction, fantasy, and horror films go. You know, as a kid, my favorite movie was War of the Worlds from 1953, the George Powell production. And when I was 9, I got to see Logan's Run in a movie theater. You know, and it was mind-blowing. It was mind-blowing the next year. I was 10, seeing Star Wars and Spy Who Loved Me in a movie theater. The year after that, seeing Superman the movie in a movie theater. The year after that, Phantasm, Dawn of the Dead, Alien. And then it went from there. So as a kid, the visions that we had of science fiction, fantasy, and horror that was on the big screen was very limited in terms of scope. There wasn't the kind of special effects. I mean, Star Wars was both Logan's Run, but mostly Star Wars, because Logan's Run, it looks like a 50s movie almost. But it was great to live through all of that and to see it all happen. And it really fueled my interests. And it's a great time that we live in. And I know I feel like I was in this transitional period where I watched the pedal to the metal go as far as fantasy filmmaking was concerned. And it was a great time to be alive. And, you know, 5 decades later, it still is. It still is. Cinefinity, pardon me, did I say Cinefamily? Cinefinity and Beyond said that Affleck and Godot tweeted #release the Snyder cut. Well, here's the funny thing about that. I think that obviously I don't, understanding how movies are made, there was probably a cut of the movie done, but it probably still needed a year's worth of visual effects and mixing and all of that. So yeah, you know, I think with HBO Max, could happen, maybe. You know, if they would allow Zack Snyder to go back in and make that for HBO Max, what a way to, who wouldn't want to see that? I bet it would be one of their biggest, because I really find Justice League to be a monumental disappointment. I was so excited my whole life. I wanted to see a Justice League movie, and that movie just, it's not satisfying on any level. I don't think it works at all. And it's really kind of a bummer. So I wouldn't mind. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but never say never in this day and age. Look, we live in a world where the Exorcist sequel, the sequel, there's 2 different versions of the Exorcist sequel. Exorcist the Beginning, the Paul Schrader version and the Rennie Harlan version. Whoever would have thought that would happen? There's precedent for it. Come on, Warner Brothers. Why not? I mean, I know it'd be expensive, but what do you got to lose, man? Put in $50 million. It'll be like an original movie that's on the on HBO Max. Hell, if they'll spend that money on The Irishman, why not just revamp Justice League and put the Snyder cut out? And better yet, why not let him revisit Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Justice League movie, and make it a whole trilogy and let Zack Snyder do whatever he wants to it, release it on HBO Max as the Snyder Superman trilogy. or something like that. It's interesting that Ben Affleck, I mean, his new movie looks great, and Gal Gadot has of course. Cinefinity and Beyond says it's trending at 2 in the world right now. Well, you know what? If they can get Ben Affleck, who's coming up in his new movie, the new basketball film where he plays the alcoholic basketball coach, and you've got Wonder Woman 84 coming out, that's some pretty powerful stuff. I got to go on and retweet them. That's pretty amazing. Wow. That's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Yeah, so who knows? Who knows? Let's see. This is a letter from Jeffrey Mao. I like this letter, actually. Oh, you know what? I read this yesterday. I read this Jeffrey Mao letter yesterday about CGI. He writes so many letters that I sometimes forget what I have and haven't read. Let's see. I've got so many letters. I got letters I haven't read. Now, this is interesting. This is a Dean Mikitich, who's a longtime imagination connoisseur, has a good question. He writes in, "Hi, Rob, and the Post-Geek Singularity. The Mandalorian and Disney Plus has been launched in North America. However, for those of us living elsewhere where we have to wait for the streaming service to arrive, at this moment in time, Disney Plus is slated to launch in Europe in March, which is only 5 months away. With only a short time until Disney launched this service, I have not seen any advertisements for it on TV or in print, which would mean the normies have no idea that it's coming. I only know that the service is coming to the UK by actually looking into it and doing some research. I'm curious to know from someone that lives in the States, did Disney do a marketing campaign before the launch, or was it spread around by word of mouth? You also have states in Robservations that Disney bought You also have states in Robservations that Disney bought a streaming service back in 2017 to gear up for Disney Plus. Given the time they have spent getting the streaming service ready, you have stated, I see what you're saying. You have stated in Robservations that Disney bought a streaming service back in 2017. Yes, that was not it was a service that provides streaming video to gear up for Disney Plus. They did that. So yes, Disney bought a company that specializes in streaming video. Given the time they have spent getting the streaming service ready, could they have not done a global launch? Yes, I know this would be a huge undertaking, but given the time and money they have already spent on it, would this not be better? The reason I say this is because The Mandalorian. While not a fan of Star Wars, I do love my sci-fi. Now I have to wait 5 months and not have this show ruined, which will be hard as ever, with every YouTube channel I watch will now be covering this and reviewing each episode as it comes out. I feel like we were back in the late 80s and early 90s, when in Europe we had to wait a year plus to watch a show that had aired in the States. Thankfully, there was no internet back then to ruin things, and what information we got was from a magazine. The only legal option to not have the show ruined is to walk away from the internet for the next 5 months, which is no easy task. Or I could go down the not legal road and set sail onto the high seas, which I'm sure many will do. I would not be surprised if in a few weeks news comes out that The Mandalorian is getting similar numbers that Game of Thrones got with illegal downloads. What are your thoughts on this, Rob? Kind regards, Dean. Have you had a chance to read my letter on For All Mankind? I'm interested to know your thoughts on it. No, Dean, I have not read your letter about For All Mankind. I have it. I've not watched it yet. I have not paid for Apple's service. I want to. I want to watch the show. I think I was waiting for it to all to drop so I could watch that in the morning show all at once. So I've not watched For All Mankind yet. But, you know, I tend to think that probably the worldwide rollout is the way they're marketing. There was marketing for Disney Plus. It ramped up to the release week. I mean, there wasn't as much of it. They were advertising The Mandalorian, certainly. But I noticed that the Disney Plus ad barrage, they saved it up until the last couple of weeks, really. I mean, it was out there, but I wasn't seeing ads for it until quite recently, quite up until a few weeks before launch, where I actually saw the Disney Plus logo with the motion logo, which I quite like, the simplicity of it. I think it's good. But I think they are gearing up. I mean, I can't even imagine on launch day they had a real problem. They were choked out because everybody was watching. I mean, it was going to happen. It didn't matter. But I can't imagine if they tried to roll it out worldwide. I don't think anybody they've got to build that infrastructure out. I know it launches in Australia and it launches in a few other places first, but and I know that you can't, they match the bank number, like where your credit card information is from, to allow you. That's why you can't buy it in other parts of the world. They've done a really great job. I would imagine a lot of it has to do with bandwidth, and they're building out this thing, and they have to do it. They have to roll it out slowly because they'll use. Look, this is a huge gamble. Disney Plus is a huge gamble. So far, it's paid off. 10 million subscribers, and the way they have Verizon now, you can get a free year of it. I think they're doing a really good job. They need to wait and see. The way I see it, though, Disney Plus is going to have to start creating a lot of original content beyond just Marvel. Now, they've got a few really interesting shows. That Disney Imagineers show people really like. The Jeff Goldblum show people are really liking. Mandalorian, obviously, but it is their original programming which is driving their viewership. And I think they're going to have to put out a lot more new shows. Disney Plus can't just rely on Star Wars and Marvel shows, because they're going to have a lot more general interest shows like documentaries and the Jeff Goldblum shows and all that. And unlike say Netflix, which buying things from all over the place, Disney is kind of, yeah, they have the Fox library, but they're going to keep Disney Plus very family friendly. I mean, there are Fox movies, not just the Star Wars movies, which Disney owns, obviously, but there are Fox movies like Sound of Music. I think we're going to see a lot more Fox movies show up on the service. It'll be interesting to see what they do, but I don't think it's nefarious. I think they just have to figure out. Rolling something like that out globally would have been. I can't even imagine what the logistics behind something like that are. They've got to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed to get it done quickly. And I think they're figuring it out. I mean, because when it goes to Europe, it's going to have to go to all of Europe, I would imagine, which is a lot. There's a lot of territories there. There's a lot of money, different kinds of money, exchange rate issues. I can't even imagine what the logistics are, but I think you're probably going to see a lot more advertising for it as it gets closer to launch day. And it is kind of a bummer that you have to wait 5 months to get it, but yeah. But hey, maybe season two of The Mandalorian will just be ready to drop. Who knows? We shall see. Along the same lines, Malik Williams asks, why do people keep saying that Disney Plus is the Netflix killer? Many online, along with Disney fans, Marvel fans, Star Wars fans, adult man children, and women who take yearly trips to Disneyland, believe that just because they canceled their subscriptions to Netflix forever and ran to Disney Plus, that everyone else will do the same. While I'm a subscriber to Disney Plus and I have a 3-year subscription from the Founders Club, 33% off deal, I'm still a huge Netflix fan. Netflix is still to this day the market share leader in the streaming game, the innovators of this segment, and still hold the most properties. To Netflix, content is king. They have some of the best original contents for mature audiences and young adults, with titles like Mindhunters, Ozark, Stranger Things, Bodyguard, Altered Carbon, and the big hit movies. Why would I cancel for just one service that only gets me family-friendly content? While I'm a sucker for MCU stuff and Star Wars, I personally am not a huge fan of rewatching movies and TV shows several times over. That's why original content that is continuously being pushed out matters a lot to me. This is a great point. For Disney Plus, the majority of the originals won't be pushed out until 2020 and beyond. With Netflix, I cannot wait to see The Irishman at the end of the month and Marriage Story in December. On Disney Plus, all I have to look forward to is the Mandalorian episodes and Togo with Willem Dafoe. I equate Netflix to an HBO while offering a lot of premium selections to choose from. While Disney Plus will probably ramp up premium content in the coming years, we should all pump the brakes on getting rid of Netflix. I couldn't agree with you more here. Heck, if you have the time to consume all the content, you shouldn't cancel any. Enjoy Hulu, Disney Plus, Netflix, HBO Max, Peacock, CBS All Access, Amazon Prime, and any other you can get your hands on. But if I could only afford one service per year, I'd go with Netflix, especially now that they've inked a deal with Nickelodeon. There's even something for the kids going forward. Remember, at the end of the day, consumers decide where their dollars go to, and I don't see 1/3 of the subscribers leaving a service like some surveys suggest. The most important thing for me and others are titles and good value for what we spend. Content really is king. It's either Malik or Malik Williams. Well, Malik, I'll say Malik. Can I say Malik? Malik, I agree with you 100% about this. The one thing that Netflix has that's the downside, and we'll see how they deal with it, is their massive debt. They've had to borrow a lot of money to feed that original content bug, and they've made some great content. I mean, I love Ozark. Other shows I would mention the Umbrella Academy. I love Sex Education. I thought was a great show. There's so much great content on Netflix. It's not going anywhere. And I'll tell you what Netflix has done. And I think this is really smart. Paramount partnering up, whether it's through Nickelodeon or now whether it's Beverly Hills Cop. Paramount can't afford in the state that it's in its own streaming service. So Netflix, they're going to supply content to Netflix. Netflix is going to help them. They're going to co-finance, however they're going to work it. But Netflix is going to distribute these movies. Paramount does not have to absorb huge amounts of distribution costs, P&A costs, marketing costs. Those are all taken care of by Netflix. I think it's a great idea. Paramount can mine its back catalog, its library, and team up. I mean, I'll tell you something. I could see original Star Trek material going to Netflix. I think if they make a new Star Trek movie, if they were to make a feature film, I could see it going to Netflix. CBS All Access, I don't think has much of a future, to be honest. I think once we have the Viacom merger and it's all finished, I think we're going to see Netflix becoming, if not absorbing CBS All Access, Netflix and Paramount's partnership is only going to get stronger. And why wouldn't all of CBS's content be absorbed by Netflix? I think it probably should. I think it'd be great for everybody, to be honest. But we'll see. I think you're absolutely right. I don't plan on getting rid of Netflix anytime soon. I love so much of Netflix's content. I mean, heck, I just watched the Power Rangers episode of The Toys That Made Us this morning. I watched the Power Rangers episode and the My Little Pony episode, which were both great. I have no interest in the wrestling episode, but those episodes I was interested in. Who doesn't like that show? I love The Toys That Made Us. That's all Netflix all the time. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think Netflix is going anywhere unless, of course, their debt crushes them. They'll eventually get out from under it, I hope, especially having more strategic partnerships with studios. We'll see what happens, but it's clearly interesting. Disney Plus is not a Netflix killer. It's a physical media killer, if anything, but not of all physical media. But I mean, I look at my between my Disney titles, my Star Wars titles, my Marvel titles, my Marvel discs alone, because of the 3D versions I have and the 4K versions I have, I probably have 45 Disney discs, just the MCU, not Disney discs, but Disney discs. I mean, I probably, between all of the stuff that's on Disney Plus, I think I'll bet you, off the top of my head, there's probably at least 150 to 200 Disney titles in my library, maybe even more, that I don't need. I mean, I'll keep them because I love physical media, but they're right on Disney Plus. Disney Plus looks great. It's great. The streaming is great. It sounds great. I mean, I'm impressed. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting. We shall see where it all takes us. But yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I don't understand why. There's such a weird, you know what I think is going to happen, to be honest? I think in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, we're going to have 4 major streaming networks. And it's going to go back. People are going to be like, it's just like it was back in the day. You had 3 major networks and an indie station and a PBS station. You never know. Cinefinity and Beyond says, I tagged you and Campy and Harloff on. Oh, well, thank you for that. I will definitely check that out. I got to go back and tweet back at both of them. Anthony Gonzalez says, you should check out the YouTube channel History Buffs. He breaks down historic films based on their accuracy, and he has good production value. You know what? People have told me that. Maybe you've told me that before, but other people have told me that. I definitely want to check that out. I will definitely go look into that. I love that idea for a channel. Anthony Gonzalez said he also reveals if he likes the film regardless. That's interesting. Yeah, I do. I love videos like that. That would be a rabbit hole that I would go down just to see what he thinks about all of my favorite historical epics. Squidward Tentacles says, hashtag release the Snyder Cut is now trending #1 worldwide, 400,000 tweets. Zach and all the actors tweeting about it. I hope they release it because it was insane. I don't know what that means. Did you see a Snyder Cut? Did you actually go and see a work in progress version? There's no finished version of the Snyder version of Justice League, but I want to see it. I'm a fan of, as everyone knows, I'm a fan, just like John Campy and I. We're both fans of we're both fans of Man of Steel, and I would like to see I'd like to see that cut released. I think it'd be really interesting. Let's see. Joe Foley is here, and he asks, this is a good letter. Hey, Rob, hope you're enjoying the warmth of California this winter, you lucky son of a gun. Yeah, I'm waiting for winter to show up. It's not winter yet here. I'm currently working a bicycling shift in Chicago where it's about 5 degrees at the time of this writing, and I'm currently questioning my life decisions. However, I thank you for keeping me entertained and inspired during my series of unfortunate shenanigans. Today, I wanted to talk about our favorite comedy directors. It's a topic I do not see brought up too often, probably because there aren't many gangbuster directors who specialize in comedy. When people talk about the world of comedy, they often bring up the usual suspects: Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, Chris Farley, Jim Varney, Eddie Murphy, etc., etc. And while those names are for sure on my Mount Rushmore, the first name I think of isn't a performer at all. The first name to come to my mind is always Mike Judge. As an aspiring comedy writer myself, I may be a bit biased, but I believe over these 20 plus years, he's proven himself both on television and the big screen in both animation and live action. While not exactly big box office successes, I'm happy he's always able to bring both a quality story and, most importantly, the laughs, especially for those of us who have a more dry sense of humor. On the television side, we have the brilliant stupidity of Beavis and Butthead, the character-driven comedy found in King of the Hill, or the now more tech-based comedy of Silicon Valley. These series alone are enough to earn my love and respect. But add in the existential dread comedy of Office Space, the now documentary Idiocracy, and the dry humor of his other workplace comedy, the cult classic Extract, and you've got a legend on your hands in my book. Following his work, he's become a sort of hero to me, and in my opinion, may very well be the funniest man alive. Which brings me to the question, who is your favorite comedy director, writer, and what kind of comedy interests you most? Joe F. P.S. I might send in an essay explaining why I find the writing of Beavis and Butthead genius, even though it appears to be quite the opposite. P.S.S. Cheesy quote of the week, a day without laughter is a day wasted. Well, Joe, I want to thank you for that. What a great letter. First of all, I think you're absolutely right. I think Mike Judge is an incredible. I don't think he's underrated. I mean, look at his staying power. He went from Beavis and Butthead. How long was King of the Hill on? And Idiocracy has now becomes more of a classic as the days go by. I think he's definitely one of our great comedy. If not, I mean, Silicon Valley's hilarious. I love Silicon Valley too. And I think you're right. I mean, I think he's amazing. He, as a filmmaker, as a writer, working in animation and live action effortlessly. He's terrific. And I think that I think you're absolutely right. Everything you said. Now, for me, it's funny to me. Comedy was never my biggest genre. I love comedy. And it's weird because the only movie I've directed was apparently a comedy. I thought it was a comedy. I hope it's funny. But, comedy was never my thing. I mean, I didn't grow up loving comedies. I wanted my entertainment serious. But when I think about my favorite comedies, the comedies in my life that are some of my most favorite comedies, I loved Animal House, the first Animal House, which is not this body. There's a lot of really funny, dry humor in Animal House. When I was growing up as a teenager, I loved Arthur. The first Arthur with Dudley Moore, I thought was hilarious. And I love the Zucker Brothers movies. I love like Airplane. One of my favorite comedies of all time is Sidney Lumet directed Tootsie. I love Tootsie. Modern comedies, I really like Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but I loved Get Him to the Greek. I loved Get Him to the Greek. But as far as people that I thought were really funny, Billy Wilder, I loved his sense of humor, even though he didn't necessarily make overt comedies all the time. I was a Marx Brothers guy, not a Three Stooges guy. Gosh, what more can I say? Yeah, I mean, in terms of comedies, it was definitely not necessarily my genre of choice. And I certainly don't watch, I'm not a sitcom guy. I was when I was a little kid, but growing up, I just didn't watch sitcoms very much. I didn't watch Friends. I didn't watch Seinfeld. I was not a sitcom person. I've watched a few episodes of The Office, but I was never both the British version and our version. I liked Monty Python when I was a kid. I liked Monty Python's Flying Circus. But I hadn't watched Holy Grail, and I did eventually, but I did like Monty Python's brand of humor. I like Life of Brian and Meaning of Life and Holy Grail, and I did see Jabberwocky and those kinds of things. But comedy was always sort of, I don't know. But I do. My friend Mary showed me Tommy Boy, which I thought was really funny. But to me, I like more of the comedy drama kind of thing. To me, the perfect kind of overt comedies. A movie like Almost Famous has the perfect balance of comedy and drama to me. But while I do recognize what Mike Judge did, but I don't know if that really answers your question. But I think your reasoning for why you think Mike Judge is one of our great comedic geniuses of the present days is absolutely correct. I believe that 100%. So yeah, I'm totally with you as far as that is concerned. I 100% agree. Mike Judge is an amazing guy who's done so many different things. Koba says, forget the Snyder cut. I still want the David Ayer cut of Suicide Squad. Oh my God. Yeah, Suicide Squad was a movie I almost walked out on. I couldn't handle the editing. It was incoherent to me. I'm like, who cut this movie? Why have they allowed this movie to be edited this way? Drove me crazy. It drove me crazy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, all of you members of the Post-Geek Singularity community, this brings me to an end of Robservations number, I think it's 278, isn't it? 278? Maybe it's 277. I think it's 278. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank my moderators. I want to thank the Honorable Mayor Mike Bodden of Riverdale, Iowa. I want to thank, of course, Detective Jim and, of course, Greg Smith. And I want to thank Jordy Lyons and Lewis Yu, our new moderators. Thank you for all the work you do, boys and girls. Well, you're not girls, you're all boys, but okay. Thank you for all the work you do. It means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to the community. Keeps this place, you guys keep it ship shape, and you straighten it up and fly it right. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank all of you for supporting the channel. Remember, if you like these chats, please hit like, please subscribe, hit that little button, all those things. We small YouTubers, we need that. And we're growing the community, not exactly by leaps and bounds, but it grows every day. Please check out the Burnettwork.net website. All of these letters that I read are there. And if you go comment on anything, you can, of course, be entered into a drawing to get a bottle of Lucky Tiger head to tail men's. Well, yeah, I think anybody can use it. All over body wash, and it's really good. And I want to congratulate our first winner. Our first winner won. And our lucky winner was Jamie Cruz from Tennessee, the great state of Tennessee. Please get in contact, or we'll send you an email about how to get in contact to have your prize sent to you. And we'll be giving away those Lucky Tiger products throughout Christmas. Maybe we'll work out some grand giveaway where we can give away a whole box. I haven't checked with Mike about this. I haven't even checked with Lucky Tiger, but maybe a Christmas present box. That'll be our final giveaway. It's not a PlayStation 4, but hey, we're working up to that. But how great would it be to get a box of great Lucky Tiger grooming products? They sent me a box to check out, and I love it. I love my box of Lucky Tiger. So anyway, thank you all for that. I will be back on the John Campea show tomorrow. I don't know exactly what my schedule is. I was not here on Friday, and tomorrow in the afternoon, I will be at a post-production facility doing the final color tweaks on Tango Shalom. I can't believe it. The video portion of the film will, aside from the credits, will be completed. Unbelievable, which is great. But anyway, I want to thank you for being here. Thanks for the ongoing support. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell you have yet to hear. All you have to do is listen. And with that, I will say to all of you, it's a bye week for the Seahawks. But anyway, next week, they're playing the Eagles. I will say this. Have a better day.